I just shake my head and try to convince people and try to explain to people that there's always something better out there. If you don't have exactly what you want in your relationship, then you need to move on. The important part here is to make sure that you know what you want in a relationship. Statistically speaking, when we leave poor relationships or bad relationships, we tend to go back up to as many as 7 times. And going back that many times, what issues do we have that we need to go back to a poor relationship? Again, I know there are a lot of comfort factors, but do we have um, some self-esteem issues that might need to be addressed? Again, there's always something that can be fixed in us, but when we try to go back into a relationship and try to fix someone else or hope that they've changed, well, doesn't always work. One of the other, I was just reading an article tonight on from a dating coach on how to trick your boyfriend back to you, or bring your boyfriend back to you through texting, and how to get his emotions worked up so he comes back to you. And now, who wants to be in a relationship where you're tricking somebody into coming back to you? Uh, the issues, the one thing that I did agree with, that there's no point in going back unless one of you changes, but the odds of that happening are probably slim to none. Unless you're the one that's changing, uh, it's probably not going to happen. I see we've got a few people out there watching, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot me a text, or if you have something that the value that you can add, feel free to join in. Um, Along that line, I've experienced um, I've experienced these problems myself, so I'm talking from experience. I've gone back on a couple of relationships, and the hardest thing is that uh, each time you go back, you go through, and soon after you get back in the relationship, you start to see the issues that were there to begin with. Those issues just don't change. And pretty soon you're feeling, yeah, this relationship isn't that great. And then that can lead to another problem, that if you're not happy in the relationship, but are feeling comfortable, it can tend to lead some people to stray and to cheat on their mate. That is never a good thing. That's never a strong or healthy relationship. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in and shoot me a note, or um, if you've got something to contribute, uh, jump in and let's chat. Um, one of the other things that I find common is that when we get back into poor relationships, or we dive back into poor relationships because we're lonely. We want to be with somebody, and again, that can be a self-esteem issue. And when we do that, yeah, nobody wins. And it's comfortable for a short period of time, but we have to look at the entire situation, the entire relationship, and see if it's really worth going through all the heartache and the pain. And in the end, you probably don't end up remaining friends. In fact, you might even end up being enemies. when you end a relationship, one of the best ways that I've found is just to end all communication. Unless it's with an ex spouse and you have children and some need to communicate, often the best thing to do is just end all communication. Don't answer the phone calls, don't answer texts, don't answer emails. Every time you jump into answering texts, even if you're being a smart ass and being insulting, what you do is you open the door for the other person to contact you again, and pretty soon you're talking, you're communicating, and you're back together. I've experienced this. I've had clients that have done this, and one story I have is that one of my clients was in a car on a vacation and texting while she was driving and complaining about her boyfriend, and wished she could push him out of the car at 70 miles an hour. After she got home from vacation, she and I had a conversation, and come to find out that every time one of her ex-boyfriends called, she was taking the call, she was taking the texts, and we had a long conversation about stopping that process. There were some tears involved because she had to do some deep thinking about herself, some self-evaluation. A couple of days later, she ended up texting me or emailing me saying that she had deleted 24 numbers from her phone. That's 24 people that she had left in her life after she thought she had moved on. One of the amazing things is that shortly after she did that, within a year after she had done that, she was engaged or had met the man that she was going to get engaged to. With all that baggage she was carrying around, answering texts from ex-boyfriends that were not good partnerships. She was just carrying baggage around that prevented her from finding the right person. So there are a lot of aspects there that with keeping all of those phones or those numbers in her phone, answering those texts, she was hanging on to the past, and she didn't realize that. Now, you may not want to delete some of these phone numbers from your phone, for the simple reason that at least early on, after the relationship breaks off and they text you or try to call you, at least you'll know who's trying to call and you can ignore the call. Beyond that, don't bother opening texts. Don't bother opening emails. Don't bother listening to voicemails, unless unless again it may be your ex-spouse where there's children involved. There's no point in opening up wounds and getting emotional about what is said or what is not said and moving on from there. Anyway, if any of you have any questions, again, feel free to jump in and shoot me a note, or if you want to contribute to the conversation about not getting back with exes, if some of you have stories about walking away and walking back in and walking away, feel free to join in and participate. We're going to go for about another, looks like I'm going to try to go for about another 18 minutes. So if you have some good comments, shoot them to me. Or if you have questions, it doesn't necessarily need to be related to our topic tonight, but as a dating coach, I can answer most of your questions regarding dating and relationships. Now, one of the things, again, I'd mentioned earlier that one of the reasons we dive back into a failed relationship is because we're lonely, and loneliness has a huge impact on on how we date and why we date. One of the things that I've discovered in my own dating life and my own life is that I have to be happy with who I am, and I have to be happy being single and being alone. It doesn't mean that I'm not lonely from time to time, but it does mean that I have control over it, and not the other way around. I'm not struggling with loneliness. I know that I have friends that I can call if I'm feeling down or if I need to be with somebody. I have people that I can talk to and or join up with for dinner or a drink, and just go out and have a good time. Listen to a band, listen to whatever. So there's always opportunities to move forward, and one of the things that I find most beneficial for me in moving on is to to create a new routine. Um, when we've left a relationship, if we've been in that relationship too long or for any amount of time, we've developed a routine to around somebody else's schedule. We expect them to be uh, coming in the door at any time, or we expect to do things with them. And when that void is gone, when that person is gone, there's a void there. So we have to change our habits, our routines, so that we can fill that time that we normally spend with someone or spent with that someone, um, that we can do something else. We can uh, find a new routine. So uh, I see people jumping in and out. If any of you have any questions, feel free to join in and make a comment or ask questions. That's what I'm here for, and we'll go from there. So anyway, as far as relationships are concerned, and poor relationships, we want to avoid those, obviously. And one of the best ways to avoid poor relationships and getting into another poor relationship is to understand exactly what you're looking for. When you know what you're looking for, you won't settle for going back to the failed relationship, um, or the comfort relationship. I guess it's kind of like I can kind of equate it to comfort food, and we all know that when we're lonely, when we're not feeling great about ourselves, we can dive into the comfort food. Well, the same thing happens with relationships. We can dive into the comfort relationship, and those are the things that we want to avoid. And again, being clear on what you want in a relationship. Beyond the characteristics of the person that you want in your relationship, the ideal person. What are those characteristics going to get you? And ultimately, I believe the characteristics that you're looking for, or the thing that you're looking for, is love, and it's that feeling of excitement when you know he's coming to the door, or that tingle in your toes when you kiss, the anticipation of a phone call, the end that look that you give each other from across the room, and pretty much know what each other's thinking. It's the butterflies. That's the feeling that we're looking for. And again, when you go back to an old relationship, a failed relationship, you're not going to get that. It may be comfortable, but it's not going to be extraordinary, and you're not going to have that special connection. Uh, so again, we've got people jumping in and out here. If anybody has a question, feel free to shoot me a question. Uh, or send me a text, and we'll go from there. If you want to participate and have some information that you'd like to share or experiences you'd like to share, would love to have you join. I'll do a little plug here. I'm from the Kansas City area, and a business partner and I have recently started a meetup group here for singles that uh, ages 30 and up, so that we have a place to discuss relationships. We have a social hour, a little bit of education. It's called the Kansas City Singles Mingle Meetup Group. So if any out there are from the Kansas City area, feel free to check it out and join us. Our first meetup was actually supposed to be last night, but we had some weather come in and kind of screwed that up. But we rescheduled it for next Wednesday, which is, I believe, the 27th of January, and again in Overland Park. So if you're in the Overland Park or Kansas City area, look it up on meetup.com. I don't know. That's pretty much what I had to say tonight. Had a great interview with one of the local TV stations today, talking about someone who jumped into a relationship out of loneliness, and fortunately she didn't jump back into an old relationship, but unfortunately she jumped into a relationship with a sex predator. And again, that goes back to knowing exactly what you want, being comfortable being alone. And when you're not comfortable being alone, you make decisions for the wrong reasons. And those reasons usually turn out bad, bad, bad. Um, and there are so many ways of protecting yourself, but the first and foremost is to make sure you're getting into a relationship for all the right reasons. So anyway, I think that's about it for tonight. We've done about 20 minutes here, and on the subject of no more, one last time. And there was a great song out about that last year that got a lot of airplay, and the first time I heard the song, it was a great song, but as I listened to the lyrics, it was like, oh my gosh, this is what bad relationships are all about. They were sitting at home on a Friday night, both of them alone. They said, to heck with the feelings on Monday morning, let's just get back together and spend the weekend. Yeah, it's always going to end badly. So let's try to develop some healthy relationships, and I will be back next week with another subject, and I will probably have a guest speaker with me next week. I will reveal that a little bit later, and we'll go from there. So anyway, all of you that have joined in, I appreciate it, and a special thank you to D Smoke 420 for hanging in there for the whole session. Thank you, Connie, for joining us, and we'll talk to you all next week. In the meantime, if you want to follow me, check me out on Facebook at Love for a Lifetime, LLC, or you can go to my website and find the Facebook page. It's loveforalifetime.com, and that's spelled LUV, the number 4, a lifetime.com. Have a great evening, everyone, and we'll see you next week.